This video is to go over a couple basic things on our laser. So again, I'm going to do the coaster. I'm going to show you a couple things about how it should be set up. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn on our laser, which the switch is over here on the far left backhand backside. So you'll see it turn on. It's not ready to go until you see this thing will kind of go through its startup, and it tells you the version, and then the job comes up. Okay. So one of the first things that I like to do, so these are all just different prints that were set in there from the last time it was turned on. So one of the first things I like to do is set up my X and Y. So I'm going to hit X, Y off, go. So X, Y off, and then the go button, which is right here, the green button. And now the X, Y is disabled, and I can actually move this guy wherever I want. So this is moving the Y. I can grab onto this up here, this metal bar, and I can move my Y wherever I want. And again, my pointer is on. That's the pointer right here, this button, and that's the red pointer dot. If you hit the button again, it turns the pointer off. When you move the X, please only touch the metal, like where my thumb is. Do not touch this gray circular disc. That's part of the optics. Do not touch this tube. That's a fragile tube that the air comes out from the air assist. So please only touch the metal up here when you want to move the X. So Y movement, X movement, and then for Z movement, all you do is you use these up and down arrows, and this is how we are going to focus it. Okay, so in order to focus it, we use this guy, which you're going to find over here. Usually I set it right there on the left hand side of the laser. It's usually sitting right there, and it is going to go right on these two little tabs right there. Okay. So what I need to do is I need to hit the up arrow until my material touches the bottom of that pointer. Okay, so one click too far, that looks good. I can now take this guy off, and now my Z is set. So I'm going to go ahead and set my my XY, which you can see that I already did the engraving on this just to kind of save a little bit of time. So I set my XY, I put my pointer right there. And once I'm happy with everything, I'm going to go ahead and hit set home. Okay, there's set home right there. And now that is my XY, or my XYZ 0. Okay, so X, obviously, moving along the X-axis, Y moving along the Y-axis, and Z is my table height. So that is all set to go. So that's step one. Step two is coming over here into CorelDRAW, going to File, Print. Okay, make sure you choose the Epilog Engraver. Preferences, and you're going to want to go ahead and go to Advanced, and this is Cardboard. So I'm going to go ahead and load Cardboard in and go back to General. Once I do that, you want to check a couple things, like number one, am I only engraving? If I am, change it to raster. Am I only cutting? If I am, change it to vector. Most importantly is the paper size. Like my paper size on this is 24 by 12, and it tells me that right there. That must match what it says right here. So obviously that says 24 by 12. And then these are the power settings. Okay, these are the settings for engraving. These are the settings for cutting. And to be honest with you, this may not be enough for cutting through the cardboard that I have. So I might need to come back and either run it a second time or up my power settings. Because if you have a thicker piece of cardboard, it may not cut through on the first time. Okay. So since normally if I was running this from the beginning, I would leave this on combined, but since you saw that I already engraved my coaster, I'm going to change mine to vector only. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and click OK. I'm going to go ahead and click Print, and you'll see the job should pop up right here, and it did not. So I'm going to go ahead and hit File, Print, and just hit Print again. And it did not come up again. So I just hit go to see if something was stuck in the machine, and then I hit stop real quick, and now I'm going to hit reset, because sometimes this laser does some funky stuff. So I'm going to try it one more time. File, Print, and just hit Print from here and see if the job pops up, and it doesn't look like the job is popping up here. So sometimes what I have to do is I have to take this red cable back here and unplug it and just plug it right back in, and then we'll see if that makes any changes to this thing. And there they go. Now I just saw them all come in. So it was on job 7 before, now it's on job 10. This glare is pretty bad. But so sometimes you do have to unplug that red cable if things are not working out. All right, so just to be sure, I go ahead and go to File Print one more time. Preferences, everything looks good. I'm on vector only. Click OK, click Print, and now that should say job 11 because it was just on job 10. So now I know where I know where I want it to be. Now I always run this with the lid up, which means the laser will not fire when I hit go. So I hit go, and now it's cutting. I watch where that red dot does. I make sure everything looks good. I make sure I'm happy with it, and if it is, then I'll turn on the exhaust fan and be ready to go. Okay, so once it's done and it's back where it needs to be, I hit reset, and it will go back to 0, 0, and I close my lid. Once my lid is closed, I come over here and I hit the exhaust fan. And since I'm cutting right now, I also need to go down here and turn on the compressor. So there's a big black switch right here on the compressor. You'll hear that turn on, and that's blowing a little bit of air right there. I generally will turn the pointer off. Okay, so now I can't see my red dot, and I'm gonna go ahead and hit go. And there, it's gonna cut that. Now, if you are unsure if that cut through, what you can do is you can always run it again. So I can hit reset, okay? And I just hit go again, and it's gonna cut right on that line one more time if you're unsure if it made it all the way through. Okay, so that is something that can be done. I'm gonna go ahead and hit stop. And at this time, I can see that it actually fell through. So I move that and my coaster is good to go. Okay, come back over here, turn off my fan, turn off my compressor, and I am good to go. Okay, so there are times when you do need to engrave it a second time. You do need to cut it a second time to make sure that you get through thicker materials. And that's it. Make sure you save your file, and you should be good to go. Also, one last thing, when you set up your file, I would prefer if you put your item in the upper left-hand corner. That really helps out as far as doing that. The only other thing that you should be aware of is when you go to File Print, if you don't want to put it in the upper left-hand corner, you may want to put it on center, which means you need to find out where the center of this item is, and you're going to want to put your red dot in the middle. So if I had this guy, if I turned my XY off, go, and I turn my pointer on so I can see that red dot. So if I wanted to run this center, I would need to find like the middle of where I wanted that to be. And then if, let's say this is a 4-inch coaster, it would go 2 inches in every direction from that. So you can do that as well. And again, I use these numbers right here to help me out, okay? So if I wanted this to be, if I wanted this to be the middle, then I would just hit set home, and then over here, I would make sure that this guy is on center, which it is. And you have other options as well, page center, top center, left center. But usually when I use this, it's gonna be center. So that means it's gonna engrave from the middle of this point, right about where the mouse cursor is right here. So that is another option if you wanna set it up that way. And I do that sometimes if I'm trying to save material. All right, so hopefully that helps.